Welcome to Colorado Conversations. I'm Genelle Padilla. We're addressing a very important topic today. We're talking about people who were formerly incarcerated re-entering society and the challenges that they face. There is an act right now, and I believe it's in front of the Senate.
Correct. It's going to the Senate.
It's going to the Senate. It is the Re-entry Readiness Act. It's HB 261256. And with me today are two advocates for this act. We have Alana Jones and Kenneth Spinden. And you guys just actually testified in front of lawmakers to get this act passed. So thank you for coming and visiting and telling your story. You guys have firsthand knowledge of the challenges of re-entry into society. Why don't we go ahead and just give a little background that you're comfortable with. We'll start with you, Alana.
Well, 4 months before I was released, I got all excited about, oh, I'm leaving, you know. But the last week, I was very nervous. It dawned to me that, oh, I'm leaving and I'm entering into a totally new phase of my life. When I got out, I would say that for 2 weeks I was very disoriented. You know, new stimulation, a lot more stimulation, and it was a struggle.
Yeah. Because 6 years, I mean, that doesn't sound, I mean, it is a long time, and I'm sure it felt like a long time, but the world moves very fast.
Right.
And it changes, and there's so many things that we don't even think about because it's day to day, but I'm sure it was a lot different. What were some of the differences that you noticed?
Well, you know, when you feel like when you're inside prison and you just don't want to cope with anything or anybody, you just go back to your cell and, you know, room, and you chill out. You know, watch your tablet, listen to music or something like that. Here, you're thrown into a situation where you're, you know, involved in dealing with people everywhere you go. And, you know, you walk on the street just to go for a walk, and there's always people. Go to the store, people. And so it took a while to get reused to being in an environment where I'm not alone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. It's definitely just, you know, it's like a 180. What about you, Kenneth? How long were you incarcerated?
I was incarcerated for a little over 13 years. And getting out was a big shock. Because when I got out, I didn't have anything. I had no place to go. I didn't have any money, no clothes, nothing. And I got hooked up with Hope Homes. So they gave me a place to stay, and the people there was only two when I first got out. They helped me with some food and stuff when I got out, because I didn't get my gate money when I left. They withheld it.
And so just real quick, what is gate money?
Everybody that leaves is supposed to get $100 gate money, so you can do essential things when you first get out, like get a bus pass, get something to eat, get a bus pass so you can make it back to the parole office. But I had saved money while I was in prison, close to $1,100, and they withheld that, saying they needed to verify my account. So for the first 3 weeks, I didn't have any money, didn't have a phone, didn't have a car, didn't have anything. And I was really lucky that the people I lived with helped me out with that. So everything was kind of a struggle, especially without a phone. If you don't have a phone, you have to go everywhere in person, and without a bus pass, that's a little tough.
So tell me about the requirements or what you need to do after. I mean, obviously you need food, you need to get around, but I mean, things people don't think about, you need an ID, you need to be able to apply for jobs. What are some of the challenges that may seem obvious to other people? Can you talk about those?
I was lucky that I did have an ID, and they told me to wait to apply for my Social Security card until I got out, and I decided not to do that. I decided to get it while I was in there, so I filled out all the paperwork by myself and got it sent in. And it was a good thing I did that, because you can't apply for your food stamps or anything without 2 forms of ID. So I got to get that, but that took a couple weeks without a phone, so I had to go down there on the bus, which was a long ways from where I was staying. And then to do that, it's just a challenge if you don't have any of that stuff when you first get out.
Right. It's like there's already so many challenges to the things that you need to do, but then you add in all of this red tape, and it's just, I could imagine how frustrating that would be. What was your experience like?
Well, I did get my gate money, and whatever remaining balance I had like $40 on my account, and so I got about $143. And when I got out at Union Station, because I took a bus from Sterling to Denver, the first thing I did just to feel connected, trying to get connected back to society, was I went to the Starbucks and got a cup of real coffee.
How does it compare?
Oh my gosh.
Night and day?
Night and day.
Yeah.
And the people were very friendly, you know. And I sat there and I was drinking my coffee and I just started crying. I couldn't believe how amazing it was that here I was in Denver. And then I was also using that gate money. Right across the street was a Whole Foods, and I had been talking to people for years, like, oh yeah, my first meal when I get out is going to be sushi.
Oh.
And sure enough, I went over to Whole Foods and got myself a plate of sushi. So I felt like I was really proud that I was able to fulfill that wish.
Right.
And so the gate money was really important. And I made my way down to the parole office, and like Ken, I had the same place to stay at Hope Homes.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, there are resources out there, but I could imagine, you know, if people didn't have others helping them to get around or anything like that, it's how do they even succeed to just re-enter into life? Like, do you know of others that maybe weren't so fortunate to have the assistance? Tell me.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we could tell you a lot of stories.
Yeah, we had one person that came to Hope Homes, was very upbeat, was ready to take on the world. He was glad he was out, but he didn't have an ID or a Social Security card when he got out. And just trying to get an appointment at the Social Security office is a nightmare. You got to call them, and it takes like 6 weeks just to get an appointment to go in. And when you finally go in, if you don't have any other forms of identification, they say, well, we don't know who you are. So he was struggling with that. And you could just see little by little, he kept getting worn down, and we kept trying to pick him up. And then one day he just never came home. And
Absconded.
yeah, so we don't know where he's at now.
Yeah.
But if he would have had that stuff, he would have made it easily. I know he would have.
Yeah, he had a job lined up too.
And is this sadly more common than we think?
Oh, for sure.
Do you have any examples maybe of another experience of a person that you were friends with or witnessed?
Well,
go
the
through
same
this?
person
The
that
same
we were talking.
person,
Yeah, we were
yeah.
all living in the same house, and it was a shame because he was very supportive. He was also very friendly toward me being a trans woman, and you know, so the connection was there, and we were very, you know, I used to watch TV with him all the time, and great guy.
Right.
And then he just slowly deteriorated.
I would imagine, you know, once you are done serving your sentence and you have some hope. I mean, you're like, okay, this is like a new chapter, and then you get out running to, you know, put your life in a different direction, and then you kind of slam into a brick wall. That's what it kind of sounds like for some people.
Oh, exactly. Like they try to prepare you while you're in prison. At least where I went to, I was in Buena Vista for most of my time, and then they transferred me down to Fremont because Buena Vista didn't really have a re-entry program, and Fremont does. And they were pretty good, but some of the resources they give you are outdated, and they really don't know some of the ones that actually will help you from day one.
Yeah.
So I think they need to be a little more updated on that, because it's what you're expecting when you get out is not there.
Yeah.
So you just kind of have to wing it when you get out, and people that know. So I was lucky to run into a few people that knew what I was supposed to do.
Yeah. It's interesting. So CEO is the organization. It stands for, help me out here. It's
Center for Employment Opportunities.
Center for Employment Opportunities, and they released a stat that said over 6,000 people return from incarceration every year in Colorado, and the state's 3-year recidivism rate stands at 28%. So 28% go back to prison. And how much of that do you think is because there's no support, or there's a lack of support?
Do you want to take
Well,
this
I
one?
would say that a lot of that has to do with no support. I know people that, you know, are very eager when they get, you know, when talking to them before they get out, they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go work here, or I want to get a job here. So a lot of them are very motivated to do right, to get their life back on track.
Right.
But you know, if it's not possible because of things in the system that are not making it, you know, allowable for them, then they do get snagged up. And then sometimes I know of stories where people revert back to their old ways. They go back to the old neighborhood, start doing drugs again, whatever. And I know that in my heart, I feel that if they have been given the right opportunity and the right chance, they would be on a different track.
Yeah, so that's where this act comes in, but we do have to take a break, and I want to get into the nitty-gritty of this act and what it changes from current procedures, but we'll take a break and we'll be right back with Alana and Ken to talk about the Re-entry Readiness Act. Welcome back to Colorado Conversations. I'm Genelle Padilla. We're talking about a bill that is going through the Senate currently, and two advocates are joining me today. We have Ken and Alana. You guys are advocating for this act because it is near and dear to your heart. You guys have kind of lived through the challenges as formerly incarcerated individuals, and you're looking to make a change for people in the future. So right now, tell me about the act and kind of where it's at passing through the House and Senate.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Well, it did pass the House, 50-something to 7, so on to the Senate. So we were very pleased to hear that. I think that the act is probably going to pass because there's a lot of support. We had a lobby day down at the Capitol, and I spoke to a lot of senators and Congress people, and they were like, "Oh, this is a no-brainer." You know, I know that if I had gotten an ID when I left, because I had no IDs when I left, I would have been much more relaxed about the experience of getting out. I had no Social Security card, no state ID, nothing like that. And I think that contributed to the stress that I was going under. Fortunately for me, I did have some family support, but I know others that don't have that support.
Yeah, and I want to just go through what exactly this act will change. So it'll make sure everyone released from prison gets $100 gate money, and that's no deductions right out the gate.
Right.
You get, is that what it's called, the gate money?
Yeah, gate
Oh,
money.
right out the gate.
Right out the gate.
Yeah, clever. Okay. So, and then it'll make sure everyone gets a no-cost transportation. So, I mean, we do know that could be expensive or hard to arrange if you don't have family. And then it makes sure people have their necessary documents, like your IDs, what else?
Birth certificate.
Birth certificate.
State
Yeah.
ID
Social
or
Security
driver's
card.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people don't understand. It's like that's going to prevent you from renting an apartment, getting a job, filling out paperwork. I mean, these are necessary things that, in order to move forward, you need.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, without the 2 forms of ID, I wouldn't have been able to get my food stamps. And then, like I said, they withheld my gate money for 3 weeks, and when they finally sent it to me, it was in a check. And if I wouldn't have had 2 forms of ID, I wouldn't have been able to cash it.
Right. And so you both are now advocates for this act, and obviously it's near and dear to your heart. How did you even get involved in getting in front of the House and testifying and telling about your story?
That was good. I worked at CEO, which helps recently released felons with a temporary job and to look for work. And they suggested I take an advocacy leadership group. And so I took that at Second Chance Center, and they're the ones that got us interested in this bill.
And Alana, why would you want to put so much time into it? You're done. You're retired. Why are you now just going back to change things for others that may be in that situation?
Well, because I believe that, you know, it's kind of like the notion of pay it forward. I believe that we have to help make the system better. We have to be an advocate for not just for the change for reentry, but for many things within the DOC world. So I feel that this is a good step, a positive step in the right direction. I'm a very strong believer in reform, and I believe that we have to do something. We have to act. if you can't just create change by sitting home and watching the news. You have to go out there and be the change, as Gandhi used to say, be the change you wish to see in the world. And so I got hooked up with CEO, and I took the advocacy course like Ken did, and I became immediately fascinated with it. I was like, wow, this is great. And then when I testified in front of the House, I'm like, oh yeah, this is my calling. This is my calling.
And you're also applying to be an intern at CEO as well. So I mean, there you go. That's just, you already have your resume and you've already done your in-person interview. But I do want to get down more into this Readiness Act and the response. I mean, I know you guys have a strong response to it, but you've said it's very positive as well. So we'll get into that. But first, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with more on Colorado Conversations. Welcome back to Colorado Conversations. We're catching up with two special guests, Alana and Kenneth. You guys are advocating for the Re-entry Readiness Act, which it really pushes for simple changes to set people up for success as they transition back into society and getting a job, getting an apartment, just basic necessities. And you both recently testified about your stories in front of the House, and this is making progress. You wanted to talk about your experience getting into advocacy.
Yeah, if you would have told me a few years ago I'd be advocating for other people, I would have said you're crazy. But when you get out and you run into all this resistance because you're just getting out of prison, you feel like nothing is, like nobody cares about what you're doing or anything. So when I got into this advocacy thing and we went to go down to the Capitol, I found out makes me feel really good, and it shows that you can make change. Just because you're getting out of prison doesn't mean you're worthless. You can still contribute. And that's one of the main reasons I got into it.
That's huge. That is huge to be able to feel that way, and then also hopefully make it a little easier for others, because you see time and time again, especially with the statistic that recidivism is at 28% in Colorado every year. Talk to me about the progress of the bill. So where are we at right now, April 30th?
Well, we got news a few days ago from the person who was pushing for it, from CEO Zach, and the House passed it. So we're one step closer. And
yes.
Now we have 2 weeks to be able to present it to the Senate, because I believe session is going to be out pretty soon. Mm-hmm. And of course we volunteered that if they need us to testify again, we will. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we got to see how the House reacts to it. Yeah. That's the next step. And hopefully we can get it done before the 2 week, before their session ends for the season. And so you were talking about when you were explaining the act to lawmakers or just the general public, it's kind of a no-brainer. People are on board? Absolutely. Okay. Everybody was. Why do you think that?
Yeah, you should have basic necessities when you get out, or they're just letting you out to fail. They're basically setting you up to fail. Mm-hmm. If you don't have an ID and a Social Security card or a birth certificate to prove who you are, you're not going to make it, or it's going to be extremely tough. Yeah. Well, the bill makes sense. It's, pardon the expression, it's a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. It really makes sense, because I also believe, and I told this to the Senate, to the House, that it's not just the individual that's affected, the one getting out. It's not that. That ripples down to the community. We're going to be building better community when we take care of the people when they come out. It's going to be a stronger community. So I don't just see it as a bill for the people getting out. I see it as a bill for the entire community. So what would you want people to know? Maybe they don't know specifically about what people face as they come out of prison. And they think, recidivism. I can't say that word. Recidivism. That's a tough one. It is. The number is very high, and it's easy to dismiss. They're just bad people. They're just going back to prison. They didn't try. What would you like the general public to know about this? Well, I think people are. One thing I learned in the advocacy group is that very few people know the system. If you talk about 1 or 2% maybe 3, I don't know the exact numbers, percentage of the population that's involved in the, being justice impacted.
The rest don't know anything about it except for what they see on TV, usually in movies and TV shows. So I think if there's a certain amount of education with the population, with the public, to know that, first of all, I would say that 6 out of 7 to 10 people, 70% of everybody that I've met are just decent people in prison. They're okay. Yeah, they made a mistake. We've all made mistakes, but they're not monsters. And so when they come out, I think a lot of people really want that chance. And I think that's why the Re-entry Readiness Act is going to be a good start.
Well,
yeah, I just, like Alana says, people don't know how difficult it is when you're coming out, all the obstacles you face. And if they would just understand a little bit of that, it would go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, if people want to find out more, where can they go? Would they go to the CEO's website?
You can go to the government website and punch in the Readiness Re-entry Act, and it will tell you all, or you can go to the CEO website as well.
Well, I appreciate you guys for coming and talking and sharing your stories and the struggles people face. It's very informative, and we'll be following along to see what happens with the Re-entry Readiness Act. And I am assuming we're going to see a lot more of you too, now that you guys, I feel like, have found a purpose and to advocate. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, so again, you can go on the CEO's website to find out more about the Act and other efforts by CEO. But for now, thank you so much for joining us on Colorado Conversations. I'm Genelle Padilla. We'll see you next time.